This is Croydon Radio.
I start in the beginning, which is only over 2 years ago. So back in April 2014, I was sitting in my nail salon having a me day when I started to feel a sensation going down my left leg. And I had been having this sensation for a few months. I never thought anything of it. Basically thought that it had been some sort of pulled muscle, something that I had done during a yoga class. I didn't take it seriously, unfortunately. But I started to feel that sensation again. And I started to feel it creeping up my left side, into my left arm, and actually into my face. And just all of a sudden, I asked the woman doing my nails, call 911. Something is wrong. And at that point, I just started to lose complete control of my body. I had no idea what was going on. My legs started to uncontrollably spasm. My arm on my left side suddenly started to spasm. I lost my ability to speak, and I went unconscious. I had no idea what had happened to me. I woke up, or became conscious that I can recall, for the first time, being wheeled into the ER. And I remember distinctly the EMT saying to me, "Do you know where you are? Do you know what your name is?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am." So I eventually was taken into the hospital, admitted, and I met with a neurologist. And I don't even remember actually going under any kind of tests, but the neurologist came in and just looked down at the floor and told me, "There's some kind of lesion on your brain, and we're not sure what it is, but you're gonna have to undergo surgery, and it's gonna have to come out." So I later learned that that had been a grand mal seizure. And when I had been unconscious, it was so extreme that apparently my contact lenses had popped out of my eyes. So thankfully, actually, I had been unconscious, because the beginning of that experience was so incredibly dramatic and traumatic. So I remained in the hospital for a few days, but I didn't exactly trust that hospital to undergo brain surgery. I was lucky enough to get in immediately to see one of the top neurosurgeons at a famous, well-known cancer center here in the U.S., Memorial Sloan Kettering. And basically, a week later, I was undergoing brain surgery to remove what they didn't know, whether it was benign or it was cancer. So after brain surgery, she never thought possible, I realized and learned that I had been diagnosed with cancer, that my tumor, which is called an anaplastic ependymoma, was extremely rare and extremely aggressive. So I had been living what I thought a perfect life. I was a young professional. I had married the love of my life. I was surrounded by beautiful friends, family. You could consider me the girl who had it all.
What year was it that you were that you found this out?
So that was April 2014.
Right.
So all of this has happened essentially just over 2 years ago.
Mm.
It's been a whirlwind. And I like to refer to it as the cancer chaos. Because in the last 2 years, it's been beyond a roller coaster, for sure. And so my cancer is so rare that the last statistic that came out through a foundation that specifically deals with my type of cancer is that with my factors, which is my brain tumor is primary in my brain, it hasn't spread to my spinal cord, which is very common. It's a pediatric cancer. So having it as an adult is actually very uncommon. And it was grade 3, which is considered very, very aggressive. So that was a lot to learn in the matter of a very brief span of time. And I specifically remember when my neurosurgeon, who I consider my hero, came in and told me how rare, how aggressive this was. And I should go back, that approximately only 72 people are diagnosed with my type of cancer with my factors in the U.S.
Wow.
every year. So I'm very special.
Yeah.
As we like to say, to put a humorous twist on it.
I think it is interesting when you've got an unusual tumor, because you suddenly become a little bit like a guinea pig that they then take. I do find that sometimes they're incredibly into you, as in your situation, because it is unusual and it's another part for them to, do some research, find out about it, which then, going forward will hopefully they can find out a bit more about it. And so so that's something that a child would normally have. It's one of the younger sort of person would have. Yes.
It's much more common in children than adults. There is a belief that I may have had it as a child and that it only progressed and showed itself as an adult. But again, as you bring up, this is all so rare.
Yeah.
We really don't know much of anything about it. And especially when I learned that I had brain cancer, I didn't know anything about brain cancer. I didn't know any of the statistics. I didn't know any of the warning signs. Brain cancer was not something that we talked about. Everybody knows about breast cancer, lung cancer, but you don't really hear about brain cancer.
No.
And we'll, I'm sure, get to it, but that is part of why I have become involved in so many charities, to help us raise awareness and funds. But to get back to your point, yes, I am a guinea pig, unfortunately. But I suppose to go back to everything, my neurosurgeon gave me the news. And I specifically remember putting my head down, crying hysterically, but then looking up, looking him in the eye and saying, okay, what do we do now? How do we fight this? And the fight or flight feeling immediately came on. I was going to beat this. There was no other choice in my head. I wasn't thinking, why me? How could this have happened to me? I never went to that dark place, thankfully. But that strength that I really hadn't known was in me immediately came out. And it's remained that way thankfully. So because I am basically that guinea pig, we didn't really know what the next treatment plan was. And so that took quite a few weeks to figure out. And I met with numerous specialists, a seizure doctor, my neuro-oncologist, a radiation oncologist, because the team at Memorial Sloan Kettering all work together on my case. And they meet constantly. I am a topic of conversation regularly, and have continued to be so. But eventually we came up with the plan that I was going to undergo 6 weeks of radiation to my brain, which is very scary because, as you know, we're told that radiation is a bad thing.
It has a lot of side effects, or can have a lot of side effects. How did you cope then with having the radiotherapy? What kind of things did you have as a problem, or did you kind of go past certain things that you were expecting to happen that didn't?
Well, as I would lead to basically the end or the present part of my story, I have had extremely bad side effects, but they didn't show until just recently in May of this year. But at that time, undergoing the radiation strangely became my routine for 6 weeks. 5 days I was scheduled. I went in every day to my hospital. I knew what we were going to do. I was essentially comfortable in knowing that, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do, and this is what I do, and I do it every day, during the week. So it really became normal, which you wouldn't think. One particular thing that's very scary, I call it sci-fi, is that you have to be strapped down to the radiation table with a mesh mask over your face. So that was very scary and never really became, what would you say?
Comfortable with it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And some patients actually keep their radiation masks after.
Yeah, they stick it on the wall, and people do different things.
For me, that's very odd.
Some burn it afterwards.
I should have burned it. So the side effects that I really only felt at that point was losing my hair, which I didn't actually expect to be so traumatic. Even though you know that it can cause it. And I felt fatigued, which I fought through all the time. I walked, I exercised, I went to physical therapy. And they say that, you have to fight through that fatigue as much as you can. So I did. And there was obviously medications involved to try and control the seizure. And I had some bad side effects with one particular one, and we had to go through the whole process of trying to figure out what worked and what didn't. So the process continued, and, they didn't really know what could help. Technically, I didn't have cancer because the tumor had been completely removed, but I was undergoing treatment for cancer. So I was in this strange position in life. How do you answer the question, do you still have cancer? I don't know. I don't know how to define that. It came when I was 34, and funny enough, ironically enough, so everything happened in April 2014. In January of 2014, a group of me and my girlfriends celebrated my birthday in the Caribbean for several days. having cocktails on the beach, dancing all night, just celebrating my life and our friendship and love and everything. And then just a few months later, I had cancer and I had brain surgery. And it's just so strange to think back, during that time that was so close to this diagnosis, which changed my entire world.
And then one of the things you're now doing is that help others, or at least just to go through your journey, but then to now doing a blog. So you're sharing your experience from the beginning. Is that right?
Yes. I'm very new to the blogosphere, as we say. I follow a sort of spiritual guru, Gabrielle Bernstein, and she is always telling people, share your story, because really that's how she became so famous and so influential. And I kept hearing the tell your story. And that's how I became involved in charities and starting a blog. She works a lot with Chris Carr, who, if you know her, she is a cancer survivor as well. And she's very influential in so many things cancer related. And they work a lot together. I've seen them live in New York City twice. And when you sit in a room full of hundreds and hundreds of people, there is just this power that is electric that you feel with those two women. So they're incredible. And so, yes, going back to the blog, I was just listening to a video just a few months ago from Gabby, and she said, tell your story. Start a blog. Go speak somewhere, even if you don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
Just get it out there, because even if there's 300 people talking about brain cancer, your story is yours and it's individual and no one else has your story. So that just motivated me. And that night I wrote my first post, and now I've written quite a few. I'm still learning. The blog is still growing. So it excites me to write about my experience. It's a therapy for me. It's a coping mechanism for me. And it's also a benefit if it helps other people.
Yeah. And so if people want to look at it, it's Brain Cancer Babe. You came up with that word.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, I like that. I was thinking it's quite, I know that it's probably babe as in, something out of Baywatch or something, like a babe. I saw someone that was kind of, this is just me. I thought, oh, it's like a fresh, you've just been diagnosed. So this is like your journey from being diagnosed as the mind being a baby mind of cancer. And then, then you'll grow and grow and grow and grow.
I love that interpretation. Yeah, I don't think that, I didn't think, although I was a little worried about using the word babe, exactly as you explained. I don't want people to think that I'm using it because I'm some model.
I'm such a babe.
Or, as you said, some Baywatch babe. But I think Brain Cancer Girl might have been taken or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So if people want to find you again, so you've really only just started up with your Facebook and Twitter, which again people can find because it is Brain Cancer Babe on both of those. And then the website, what kind of things do you do on your website? What kind of things, is it your journey? Do you tell about other charities? What do you do on there?
So originally it had started documenting my initial diagnosis. And if you'd like, I can get into the things that have transpired after my initial diagnosis, because I've had a recurrence and I've just presently undergone my third brain surgery. So I began the blog just writing about the initial diagnosis, what had happened that brought about the diagnosis. Some inspiring or hope to be inspiring articles. There's actually a fantastic program with an organization called cancercare. I'm sorry, it's either .org or .com, but they have a program called Healing with Words, and it is basically several weeks where they give you specific topics and you talk about not necessarily cancer related, but it also is dealing with cancer survivors, patients, and it's very therapeutic. It's wonderful. So some of the posts that I put on there were the articles that I had written for that program. So it actually became quite easy to post the first things because I had already written some of them. I had told my story quite a lot in speeches and everything like that through the charities that I was involved in. And so as it developed in my first initial posts, I then, in May of this year, 2016, entered a whole new world of my cancer chaos. And as I said, underwent my third brain surgery. So then I started to write about, oh my God, what just happened to me? Because it's so fresh, it's so raw. So my blog had started out, as I said, really going back 2 years, and then the present. And now all I've essentially documented everything at this point for the initial diagnosis. And there's several posts about that. And then there's several posts about what recently happened. So now I believe that the blog will start about my recurrence, which I like to call round 1, round 2, and round 3.
Yeah. One of the things you have mentioned as well is that you've done certain running and things where you've done, raising funds and things. And I saw that you do for the National Brain Tumour Society. Yes. And you've also, have you got coming up the New York City Walk?
So the National Brain Tumor Society here in the U.S. is the largest nonprofit organization, and it's specifically dedicated to the brain tumor community. And it does a lot of different things for the community. It's very, very involved in research and funding research, which we so desperately need. It also provides education, just FAQs about brain cancer and how it's affecting all of us. And through that, raising awareness, having events across the country. And it also advocates for legislation. They have a program every year where they bring survivors and they lobby, essentially, get in front of congressmen, talk about brain tumors, talk about the funding that we need and the research that's going on. And so that's a very successful program as well. So really what happened is when I found out that I had brain cancer, I essentially Googled, brain cancer organizations. And I immediately found, to abbreviate, MBTS.
Yeah.
And
they are the biggest. Are they the biggest in the States, or is that? Yeah.
Largest nonprofit in the States. So I found their New York City Walk. I immediately started fundraising. So that was probably at the end of April, early May of 2014. And by the time that the walk came around in New York City in June, I was the top fundraiser.
Wow.
For the entire event. And I just kept going.
Yeah.
It was my coping mechanism. It was my therapy. It gave me strength. I wasn't again in that dark place. I was finding a community that I could bond with. And so as the next year came on, so 2015, I continued to be very involved. I was a featured speaker, actually, at our 2015 walk, telling my story. I was the second top fundraiser in 2015. And now this year, I am actually the co-chair of the entire walk.
Wow.
And as of now, I am the top fundraiser. So I hope that by our walk in June 25th, I will also stay the top fundraiser. And of course, being co-chair, I will speak again about my experience and about the walk. So it's actually the largest event that the organization hosts here in New York City. So I'm extremely proud to be involved and so involved because I just hope that just telling my story and my advocacy and my fundraising does what little or large effects that I can have for all of this.
Yeah, I think I think where you've been encouraged by someone is that will again, encourage someone else. And I suppose it's always the way of everyone just leading on for the next generation or whoever, that these things, as there's somewhere starts and then people just influence the next and the next and the next, and then it's what you've started. You have no idea what will come of your blog yet. It's just at the moment a small kind of seed, but it still will grow. Can't thank you enough again that you got up nice and early from over there in New York. And I really do wish you all the best for the blog.
So there's lots of ways that I hope people contact me and learn about me and learn about cancer and just get the word out, raise awareness.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you. And if you're, inviting anyone else, I'm very happy to speak again because my story continues.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to keeping track. And I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, great.
Bye.
Bye.
This is Croydon Radio.